I'll call this meeting the Oskaloosa City Council to order. Today is Tuesday, February 16th, 2021. We'll start with the invocation. Would you pray with me? Heavenly Father, as we assemble here tonight, we're still meeting in such a way as to minimize our risk with the coronavirus. We have vaccines available, but need to stay healthy until we get the shots. We thank you for the blessing of making the developers' efforts fruitful. Please help those who are speeding the distribution around the country. We ask for your guidance and blessing on our state and national leaders. As we're going into this new year, there are many challenges before them. So please bless them with a spirit of grace and cooperation as they work their way through them. Tonight, we're here to do city business. Bills to pay, infrastructure to attend to, streets and buildings to be constructed, decisions to be made. So we ask that you look down on those who have felt your call to be in attendance tonight. For the council members and staff, please bless us with quiet and considerate attitudes, well thought out deliberations, and ultimately decisions that are best for all concerned. Please bless those in the audience and watching the broadcasts, the leaders of businesses and organizations who have the vision and commitment to help the city, the countless volunteers who are motivated to help, and informed citizens who have given us the privilege of their trust and support. Tonight, we assemble to improve the long-term future of Oskaloosa. May the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in your sight. Amen. Okay. The Pledge of Allegiance is temporarily suspended because it's near impossible to say it in unison in this type of environment. So next is roll call, please.
Burnett?
Here.
Caligari?
Here.
Drost?
Here.
Moore?
Here.
Addison? Here. Walling?
Here.
Yates?
Here.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the opportunity for community comments. This item is reserved to receive comments from the community for concerns whether or not they're included on the agenda. The community is encouraged to speak before the mayor and city council. Asked to keep statements brief, time limited to no more than 3 minutes. Any questions are to be asked of the city staff, council members, or the mayor prior to speaking to the full council, so concerns can be properly researched and answered away from the meeting. Comments are to be directed to the mayor and city council only. To make a public comment, please use the raise your hand function for those who are joining virtually, or use the *9 if you're dialing in with a phone. The moderator will open the lines one at a time, and at that time you will need to state your name and address before making the comments. Is there anyone who would like to speak tonight?
Aaron, I'm not seeing anyone.
Okay. In that case, we will move on to the consent agenda. These items are all routine in nature. There were only a few that I wanted to draw your attention to. Item G is scheduling a public hearing for rezoning of property located at 1408B Avenue East from an R1 single-family residential district to an R3 multiple-family residential district. That hearing is going to be on March 1st of 2021. Item H is to consider a resolution setting a public hearing for levying a special assessment for nuisance abatement at 1208 Santa Clara Street, Lot 68, in accordance with the Oskaloosa Municipal Code. That hearing is on March 15th of 2021. Item I is setting a public hearing for levying a special assessment for nuisance abatement at 603 G Avenue West, and that's in accordance with Oskaloosa Municipal Code. Again, that one is also on March 15th, 2021. And item J, which is a resolution setting a public hearing for levying a special assessment, and that's for nuisance abatement at 913 North Market Street in accordance with Oskaloosa Municipal Code. That's also on March 15th of 2021. Do we have a motion of approval for this consent agenda?
Moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on it? Roll call, please.
Caligari?
Yes.
Drost?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Addison? Yes. Walling?
Yes.
Yates?
Yes.
Burnett?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Getting into the regular agenda, first is a resolution approving the fiscal year 2022 maximum property tax dollars. Per state code 384.15a, cities are now required to hold a maximum property tax dollars hearing. if the proposed budget property tax revenues exceed 102% of the current year collections. Since Oskaloosa's fiscal year 2022 budget is proposed to exceed 102%, the City Council has to approve the resolution by 2/3 majority of the full City Council. It will be 5 votes out of 7. It is important to note that under the new state law, this notice does not include the levy for debt service or instrumental or vocal music groups. Once the resolution is adopted, the city will be required to post on the city's website within 10 days of approval. So I'll open up the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak at this time? Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion of support for the, yeah. I'm just looking through here. Do we need to, yeah, we still need to approve the resolution. So do we have a motion of support for the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Frost,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Otteson, yes. Walling,
Yes.
Yates,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Caligari,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Moving on to item B, is to consider a resolution to authorize a vacation and sale of a 126-foot by 16.5-foot section of the north-south alley at 207 Rock Island Avenue. Staff received the alley vacate request from Wanda Miller, who's the owner of 207 Rock Island Avenue, for the north-south alley adjacent to the property. They would like to purchase the land because it's in close proximity to the building on her property and is concerned that a car could hit the house. The subject alley is located between a commercial, UC, and residential, which is an R3 zoning district, but would be used for residential use. City staff conducted a survey with property owners with direct access to the alley and utility companies. All the adjoining properties belong to a single property owner who did not respond to the survey which was sent out. The utility companies have indicated that they have infrastructure in this alley and will require a permanent easement. Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this request at their meeting on February 2nd of 2021 and recommended by a vote of 5-0 to approve the street vacate and sale. Staff is recommending the council receive public comments and close the hearing and then vote to approve the alley vacate request. So I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this? Okay, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. I'll open it up to the council. Do we have a motion to support the alley vacate request?
So moved.
Okay, we've got a motion and I think a second in there. Discussion.
I think the one thing that needs to be discussed is whether you vacate the full 126 feet or not. I question whether the property owner adjacent responded, because I believe we've got other action going against them. They might have seen a letter from the city of Oskaloosa and said, I'm not opening that. But if we vacate the entire 126 feet, that could prohibit access to the back of the building at 204 6th. And so I think we need to be looking at only vacating the southern, I think it's 65 feet.
That sounds pretty reasonable. Other council members' opinions?
So what's the status with 204? Were they not informed about the vacate?
Mayor and Council, they received letters. They were sent out. I don't know. I guess I shouldn't say they received them for sure, but they had letters sent to them. I guess one of the things that we would talk about is if they're interested in purchasing, if 204, who also owns 213 and 215, if they're interested in that north half, I think it'd be fine to sell that off. But as Councilmember Dross says, if they don't show any interest, I don't think it'd be appropriate to proceed with sale of that north half of the alley on this screen here.
So just do the portion adjacent to 207.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then with our normal policy of doing these things, we would still offer the east half to 213, wouldn't we?
Right. Yep.
Okay.
And if they decline, then 207 can go ahead and if they want it, the whole thing, they can take it.
Yeah.
That's what we-
I think when we send out these letters, if we don't get a response one way or the other, I think somebody ought to try calling them. At least make another effort to get a hold of them. Just for future.
Yep. Understood. So for
And
the,
Mayor and Council, this individual has claimed that they haven't received any of our notices, whether it's for cleaning up the property, because you can see in this picture, there's nuisance conditions that have existed on this property for a while. They're claiming they didn't receive any of those notices prior to our abatement. We've cleaned this property up. They haven't received any of the court filings on this property, which have been filed with the court. So, I mean, there have been some communication efforts by the city, and they're saying that they haven't received any of those, and so those are by certified mail.
Okay, but I'm just talking about future. As long as we get at least one more stab at it, you know, I think it's our diligence to do that.
Nowadays, it can be difficult to find a phone number for someone because of the use of cell phones instead of landlines, so they're not published anywhere. We could try, but we may not have very good luck at it.
so the certified mail that goes out, does that require any kind of a signature or other way of confirming delivery took place?
And again, when I was referencing the certified mail, that would have been for the court-related documents. Sean, do you know if they use, I think they use traditional mail for these notifications for the alley vacates.
I think you're correct, Mike.
Okay.
Even if you send certified mail and they don't accept it, then it comes back return receipt with no signature. So, you know, they'll not take it or they won't come to the door or whatever. But you will get an acknowledgement that it was trying to be delivered, but nobody was there to sign for it or whatever. So
That's correct.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I think if I recall, when we do these things, don't we the city posts us a sign up for about the hearing, public hearing? A city or alley vacates?
Sean,
might-
do they?
I'm not sure. I don't recall what we did on that.
You know, I'm not aware of a sign for alley vacates. I know we do for zoning applications.
Right, for zoning, yeah, we,
That might be a way to do it, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you mean what? Put it in the paper? Is that what you think? Is that what you're saying?
No.
you know, when we like do some zoning, you might see a sign out there.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what
Yeah,
you're saying.
and when I was on P&Z, I don't recall if we did it for alleys. I don't think we did. Now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. It's a lot cheaper than going certified mail and some of that stuff.
Well, you know, it gets some of the attention, hopefully.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Okay.
That's
So
all I-
what we have is a motion on the floor for the entire alley. And so I'm wondering for the folks who made the motion and second, if they would consider cutting that back to just the south half.
Did I do that?
Yeah, did I do that? I don't.
For that? Yeah, that
Somebody did it.
according to her application, that fulfills her requirement, which is she's afraid somebody's going to hit her property, right? So if we do that, that'll fulfill her wish anyway, I would think. So yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay. Amy,
So I would option that we would just do the south half of the alley.
okay. Okay, who made the motion and who made the second?
I had Calgery and Burnett.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll make a motion, revise my motion to do the, is that the south part?
Yeah.
Yeah, south part of the alley adjacent to 207.
Okay. And that was fine with you, Steve. So any further conversation?
Just to be clear, would this be only the applicant's half of the south half, her side of the south half, or is it the whole south half?
The,
The practice is the whole width of the alleyway.
Okay, thank you.
Offer to the other side, yeah.
Right. Okay. Roll call, please.
Moore,
Yes.
Addison,
Yes.
Walling,
Yes.
Yates,
yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Drost,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Takes us to item C. This is consider a resolution approving the vacation and sale of the 50-foot by 16.5-foot section of the north-south alley at 809 South C Street. Alley vacate request is from Ronnie and Cheryl McCain. They're the owners of 809 South C Street for the north-south alley adjacent to their property. They would like to purchase the land to connect it to the property they are currently purchasing at 824 South D Street. Subject alley is located in a residential, be an R2 zoning district. City staff conducted a survey of the property owners with direct access to the alley and the utility companies. 6 property owners were surveyed with the request. 2 completed responses were received. Those 2 responses indicated they were not opposed to the vacation of the alley. The city has existing sanitary sewer infrastructure in the alleys, and so will require a permanent easement. Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this request at their meeting on November 3rd and recommended by a vote of 4-1 to approve the street vacate and sale. So staff is recommending that we have the public hearing, receive comments, and then vote to approve. So I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this tonight? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion of support for this alley vacation?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
This may be a question for Sean, but I'm just curious, the one vote on the P&Z that was against this, do you remember what their thought process was for denying?
That particular member did not state a reason for his no vote.
Okay. Thank you.
Not hearing a lot of comments. We've got a motion and a second on the floor. Roll call, please.
Addison,
Yes.
Walling,
Yes.
Yates,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Drost,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Next item up is item D. This is to consider a resolution approving a site plan for a restaurant with drive-through at 703 A Avenue West. The city received a site plan application for redevelopment of McDonald's at 703 A Avenue West. McDonald's intends to modernize the restaurant by rebuilding it and also redesigning the parking lot. Proposed building is 4,218 square feet in size, which would be smaller than the existing building, 5,209 square feet. The exterior materials include modular face brick, fiber cement lap siding and trim, architectural metal panels. Also features windows, a canopy, and wood grain aluminum batten accents covering more than 60% of the street-facing facade and on other portions of the building. The site is zoned UC, which is mixed-use urban corridor and also located in the A Avenue Overlay District. 57 of the minimum required 50 points for the Overlay District standards have been achieved. Landscaping will be provided throughout the site in excess of city requirements. New sidewalks will be provided front and back. Required street trees will be provided within the front street yard, adjacent to but not within the right-of-way. Impervious surface will be reduced by adding landscaping to the site and also by using pervious paving in a portion of the parking area at the northwest edge of the property. The existing pole sign will remain. New directional signs and wall signs will also be shown as on the plans. The plan appears to meet or exceed all of the zoning standards and other applicable code requirements. Board of Adjustment reviewed and granted a conditional use permit to McDonald's at their January 26th meeting. At their February 2nd meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to recommend unanimously in a 7-0 vote approval to the City Council of the site plan. Staff concurs with the recommendation. Do we have a motion of support for this resolution?
Second.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? You know, I would just throw in my comments that I'm certainly appreciating the investment that McDonald's is making here. That I think the modernization is just one more thing to really make the A Avenue corridor look modern. And also, I think also this offers a chance for them to also do things a little bit more efficiently. I assume that that's behind some of this as well. Any other comments?
I was just wondering, do we know a time frame on all this? When they're going to close and what's the time?
So this is Chris Stepp, Area Construction Manager with McDonald's. So we are right now targeting last day of sales on 3/15. Then we would demo the following week, and official ground break would be 3/29. Now that's all depending upon permit received, but we're trying to move pretty quickly here. And then if we are able to ground break the last part of March, then we would open up last week of June.
Okay. Thank you.
My wife asked if we could make this contingent on them having the McRib sandwich all year long.
I vote yes on that.
Of all things, it's not in the agenda.
Oh, shoot.
Just trying to keep a happy house, Mayor.
Yeah, yep, I appreciate that.
I do have a quick question. It's completely unrelated to the bill, and this is for Chris. Chris, so I take it that you're involved in a number of these. Are you ever involved with the traffic part of it? I mean, is that, and the reason I ask the question is we're going from a 4-lane to a 3-lane out in front of your restaurant, and I'm curious if you've got any other communities where you're 3-lane and if you notice that being a good thing, a bad thing. I'm just curious for feedback.
We have some preliminary discussions upon that. You know, each location is different. I've worked in the city of Chicago. I've worked in Michigan, Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, all over the place. So, I mean, we've discussed that. I mean, Joel Jackson with our civil department is on. He's got more experience on that type of stuff than I do. And Joel, would you like to jump in on that?
If that's the 402 area code, he's muted.
Okay.
I don't know if he's 402, that's Omaha. It's not a big deal. I just thought, there's just debate on whether that's going to hurt, whether, not necessarily hurt, but create traffic issues. So I was curious from a perspective of a national retailer, what your thoughts were. So.
We've got a number of locations and varying types of traffic flow. So we try to make our side as safe as possible. What happens around us, we try to control what we can.
Okay. Thank you.
Hearing no other comments, roll call, please.
Walling,
Yes.
Yates,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Caligiuri,
Yes.
Drost,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Addison.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Gets us to item E, having to do with street names. This is amending chapter 12.04 pertaining to the naming of a new street. This is the second reading. On December 16th of 2019, the City Council approved the site plan for the new YMCA, Recreation and Early Childhood Education Center. The plan showed an unnamed public street along the northern edge of the site. Construction of the street is nearly complete and the city must establish a name. The conventional street name based on location would be P Avenue West. However, the Mahaska Community Recreation Foundation recommended the name Partnership Avenue to recognize the entities who partnered together and established the site to build the new facility. Proposed name was referred to Planning and Zoning Commission for review on February 2nd as required by the code section 12.04.010C. The commission voted to recommend unanimous approval, 7-0. So staff is recommending the city council discuss and then hold a second reading. Also waive the third reading, naming the new street Partnership Avenue. Waiving the third reading allows the staff to order the street sign a little sooner, and that would be expected to take several weeks to fabricate. So do we have a motion of support for the naming of this street to Partnership Avenue?
So moved. Second.
Okay. And then, let's while we're at it, also, do we have a motion to waive the third reading?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Okay, then going back, discussion on the motion to name Partnership Avenue. Any comments on that?
And we have the map up for a little bit. That's the street coming off of Green, is that right? Or Green Levine?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah.
Right here.
Right, okay.
Okay. Okay. Any further comments? Okay, let's first have the motion and second having to do with the waiving of the third reading. Roll call, please.
Yates,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Caligiuri,
Yes.
Drost,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Addison, yes, Walling,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. And now the vote on actually naming the street. Roll call, please.
Burnett,
Yes.
Caligiuri,
Yes.
Drost,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Addison, yes, Walling,
Yes.
Yates.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Next up is item F. This is to consider an ordinance to add chapter 10.79 having to do with utility vehicles, UTVs, to the Oskaloosa Municipal Code. And this is a first reading. Per mayor and council interest at the November 2nd, 2020 council meeting, Police Chief Bakey provided an overview of the Iowa Code regarding golf cart and all-terrain or utility vehicle use, the current city municipal code, and other communities' UTV ordinances to seek council perspective on considering any changes. Following the November meeting, the city issued a brief survey for the purposes of seeking public input on UTV and ATV and side-by-side use within city limits. On December 21st of 2020, Chief Bakey presented the results from the community polling to the council. Per council direction, this ordinance formally institutes the regulations by amending Oskaloosa Municipal Code Code Title 10, which has to do with vehicles and traffic, by adding Chapter 10.79, dealing with utility vehicles, or UTVs. Staff is recommending approval of the ordinance on the first reading. Do we have a motion of support?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. We got a motion and a second. Any comments on this?
Yeah, I guess a couple. I know there's a definition of what a UTV is, but this does not have anything to do with side-by-sides, correct?
Yes,
Council.
it includes side-by-sides.
Yes, it does. Based on the direction from the last meeting that this was discussed, the council's consensus was to make sure that this ordinance included side-by-sides.
Okay.
Only thing we aren't doing is what you straddled, Doug.
I'm sorry?
The only thing we aren't including is what you have to straddle.
I gotcha. Then I guess my next question is one of the items that this involves is using them for snow removal. Is that an exception and I just missed it?
You mean that where you straddle it, if it uses?
No, but a lot of people use the UTVs for snow removal, and I noticed we only allow it from sun up to sundown. And I know a lot of people in the winter are getting home from work and they're going to use them to push snow, or they're doing it before work. In the winter, that's going to be in the dark. And so is there exception for snow removal, or does this apply no matter what?
Chief, are you going to plan to address that?
Yes, thank you. So there is not an exception written into this specifically. There are people doing that now, and it has not been an issue. So if you want me to add that in, I certainly can. We had talked about ATV with snow removal. We didn't address that here because this doesn't include ATVs, but I'm more than happy to write that into the code if that's what we want to see.
Well, like I said, I know it's happening now, so I...
Either write it in or start writing tickets, you know, but I'd write it in.
Yeah, I would think the same.
Does it count if you have a blade on your vehicle in the middle of July?
And then I guess in one of my comments the last meeting is I wanted to move forward with this, but I made the comment very vaguely to have significant penalties if it wasn't followed.
Agreed.
Now maybe that's not even something you can do by law. Dave could comment, but when I look at the violations, I don't look at that as, I know my speeding tickets are a lot more than that, God forbid, but so this looks like either we're not really addressing that or, and maybe there was a different school of thought by the rest of the council or by the chief. I'm fine with that, but it just didn't appear that that was addressed in this from my perspective.
Yes, sir. Mayor and Council, I can address that. The $50 fine that you see under 1079-90, that would be just for violation of the ordinance itself. But if they are caught speeding, if they are caught without insurance, that would be handled under the regular traffic code. That would not be handled under this. So the speeding fines are fairly significant, just as it would be in a motor vehicle, and the lack of insurance is also a fairly significant fine. So
What is it if you're underage? Which I think we're going to see more here than you do in an automobile. So what's that?
I'm sorry?
Underage?
The underage would actually be operating a motor vehicle without a license, so that's fairly significant also. A lot of the actual fines outside of this ordinance would be handled by the traffic code.
Okay, so you treat it like a regular automobile or traffic violations. Okay.
And believe me, our speeding fines are high.
Yes, they are.
You sound like you know that firsthand.
Way to do.
I think the other thing that had been brought up in discussion that is not addressed in the ordinance, but just to clarify, will there be any inspections or permits required under the code if you're going to use UTV on the streets?
So what we had talked about was we used to do that for golf carts, and we had permits and we had stickers and we had, I believe, insurance requirements, and that was done away with. So I think it's easier to not put that on our department right now to have everything inspected. Is we will take that on a case-by-case basis because we're going to be seeing these out on the street and stopping them. So we don't have a flag requirement. We don't have a slow-moving vehicle requirement because they're not slow-moving vehicles. If they are stopped for whatever reason, they will have to show proof of insurance, and that would be fined separately. So it should be relatively easy to walk through this case by case as we stop these people if there are issues going on. And if there are no issues going on, then inspecting them for lights and seat belts and all that. We don't do that for cars, and we're basically allowing these to be operating as cars within the city. Does that answer your question?
Right. Yes, it does. And that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure it was clear for everybody if that's the case. So I'm in agreement with the chief.
All right.
And isn't it true though, the DNR stickers these things?
The DNR issues stickers or permits for off-road use. That is correct.
Okay. And the way I understand it, it includes an inspection, but I might be wrong.
I think in practice it is supposed to. I'm not sure that's 100%.
Okay. Any other comments on this first reading? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Caligiuri,
Yes.
Drost,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Addison,
Yes.
Walling,
Yes.
Yates,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Okay, that passes.
Mayor, I would suggest we can wait till it comes up, or we may want to address ATVs for snow removal only. But not tonight. I'm just saying that there's a lot of those out there, and they do sidewalks well, and I think you're going to hear some pushback there. And I'm not doing just some pushback. I think it's a good tool for snow removal. And I'm with Steve, not with Summer.
Yeah. Yeah, so for snow removal to exist, you have to have snow first, right?
A lot of that.
Well, is this the time to try to put that into this ordinance? Is it a good fit? I'm getting a no from one of the squares.
Mayor,
I don't want to cloud it that the fact is not approved on the streets any other time at snow removal. So I don't know if that's separate. Do whatever you want. But.
Okay. So yeah, we'll save that for another time.
we'll take a look at it, Mayor and Council. There's a section for ATVs and then there's a specific section for UTVs. So we'll take a look at it. If there's an applicable change in this particular ordinance, we'll make sure that it gets brought into the second reading and we'll make a note of it for you.
Great.
Okay.
And if I might add, chapter 10.78 right now, it does cover all-terrain vehicles and snowmobiles, so that would probably be the place to insert snow removal for ATVs only.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Okay.
That way it's no question.
Yep. Okay, moving on. Item G, consider approval of pay application 9. It's in the amount of $563,384.36, going to Graphite Construction Group for the Early Childhood Education and Recreation Center. Staff has received the pay application for the amount I mentioned before, primarily associated with masonry, doors and windows, pool, mechanical, and electrical. Cost breakdown is in the packet. Staff is recommending that the City Council approve the pay request. Do we have a motion of approval?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any comments on this? You got a lot of pretty pictures.
Yeah. At least they got the roof on to keep some of the snow out.
Yep.
And Mayor and Council, I will make a note that we received an updated master schedule from the contractor, Graphite. We haven't digested that yet internally. We're going to have a response to it. So I will give you the latest update by email if the project schedule is changed. Actually, I'll just give you an update on it whenever we have it confirmed one way or another. So just to let you know, and then at our next meeting, I'll also publicly discuss that as well. But at this point, we have a revised schedule, but we're going to have to work through that and understand it a little bit better.
Okay. Appreciate that. Okay. We've got a motion and a second. Any further comments? Roll call, please.
Frost,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Otteson,
Yes.
Walling,
Yes.
Yates,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Caligari.
Yes.
Okay. That passes. Gets us down to item H. This is discussion and possible action on the intergovernmental agreement that creates the Mahaska County Solid Waste Management Commission. The commission has undertaken a review of the agreement that created the entity back in 1972 and 73. Proposed modification to the existing agreement would reduce the number of appointed representation to the Commission for Oskaloosa from 12 to 6, and Mahaska County taking their membership from 8 to 4, reducing the overall number of commission members from 30 down to 19. Depending on City Council discussion, staff will either prepare modifications to the document and or prepare a future agenda item to formally approve the amended agreement. There's no specific financial impact anticipated. However, as noted in Article 10 of financing, the Solid Waste Commission has the ability to assess members on a per capita basis in amounts to operate the landfill. The assessments can be annually or through a supplemental assessment as necessary necessary. No assessments have occurred in recent history. So a little background on this. I'm the representative for Oskaloosa on this. The 2080 agreement was written up back in the 70s, and it was at a time when, my understanding, that the communities would contribute money to make the landfill work. And so the entity was created, and then it financially failed. It was recreated, financially failed again, and then it was recreated a third time. And from what I understand, one of the more influential personalities at the time was a certain Keith Miller from New Sharon, who was known to have strong opinions occasionally. Okay, all the time. And so they got the landfill up and running. However, they said that at that time, in striking up the 2080, they wanted to have an absolute strong voice in the way things went going forward. So you had 1 person per 1,000 of population. Oskaloosa had, in this case, our population has grown, so we would be entitled to 12 members, and then the county had roughly 6,000 in the unincorporated area, 8,000. And so that's fine. That's the way the bylaws were written, that's the way the 2080 was written. The bylaws were later written to say that no, it's going to be 1 member for every 2. And so if you think about when I'm getting people to be representatives on this board, how difficult it is for me to get 5 people signed up and being on this board for City of Oskaloosa, we're entitled to 12. And so the idea was, well, maybe we ought to get the size of the board reduced down to a more manageable size. Second thing is that while it was originally funded in such a way as that all the communities were putting money in, that changed. And so now it's run by fees that are charged on a per ton basis to the haulers. The haulers then turn around and bill their customers. And so that way, in effect, the customers are paying for the landfill fees. There's no need for each community to kick in money anymore. And so that's the dimension that's in place, saying, well, maybe Oskaloosa and the county don't need to have quite so strong of a voice in the way that it operates, because we aren't taking tax dollars and shoving it in there. The flip side of that conversation goes, well, yeah, but we still have the majority population, and so maybe we don't want to reduce that after all. Weighted voting, if you will. And so that's what's going on right now. There was a brief conversation that took place at the Landfill Commission meeting last week, in which I believe it was New Sharon, had presented it to their city council, and they had received advice that they should not sign at this time, and that the agreement should be considered more. That as far as the advice from the city attorney was concerned, the smaller cities in the county needed to have a greater voice yet. That Oskaloosa and Mahaska County were the big dogs, and if the 2 of them ever agreed on something, they could ram through and on a 10-9 vote whatever they wanted. And so the agreement looks like it's going to be discussed some more before there's any action that's really necessary on it. But I did want to get it before the city council so you understood this is what we've got so far, and also open it up for conversation if there were any observations or thoughts on this. And so I'll open the floor up if anybody had any comments regarding the document.
I've got a couple of comments. Number 1, how do you ever make any decisions with 30 people on a board? Secondly, under the 2080, Oskaloosa has 12 and the county, the unincorporated county, has 8, so that's 20 out of 30. So Oskaloosa and Mahaska County control it anyway, right? I was going to suggest why not reduce it further to where it's 1 member per first 5,000, and then an additional number every 2,000 or something like that to get the board to a manageable size where you can have decent discussions. Now, again, Mayor, you're on the board. How are those discussions? Are they productive, or is it just a bunch of rambling, or how does that work?
You would be very surprised that it's not atypical for us to have 18 or 20 people show up for the meetings. The conversations, for the most part, are very cooperative with one another. When there are votes taken, more often than not, there will be either unanimous or perhaps one or two dissenting votes. And I think the chair people over the past years had not paid as much attention to the weighted voting model that was in the 28E, and instead would just take, if we've got a majority of voices saying aye to something, then it didn't really matter. Now, when I became a member of this body, that was one of the things I did, was take out the 28E and look at it, recognize the weighted voting that was taking place, or at least that was specified in the 28E, but then decided, well, let's see how this is working before I decide I want to start making any kind of challenges to voting or clarifying, hey, by the way, Oskaloosa votes all 12 of its votes yes, or something to that effect. And it's been unnecessary. That for the most part, the body gets along just fine.
Well, Mayor,
yeah.
To get a quorum, do you have trouble getting a quorum because all these people don't show up? Or you take quorum of what's there?
You take a quorum. Well, a quorum is the majority of the vote, or of the members, right? So you've got 30 to start with. You got to have 15 to make a quorum. If you work that weighted voting tool, what you're going to find is Oskaloosa has 12 votes. And so if we have a contingent of Oskaloosa that shows up, there's your first 12. If one person from the county shows up, then there's your next group. And so you can have a quorum in a hurry. Now, it's not an issue because all the other cities have been actively involved as well. So Eddyville, Fremont, New Sharon, etc., all those folks are showing up, and so it hasn't been an issue. But in the case where we have a conflict between the bylaws and the 28E, adjusting the 28E seems to be the best way to go as far as making it workable in the future.
Can I at least raise the issue that we've been dealing with, at least on some other matters? I mean,
Please do.
I don't know that I'd recommend that the city council necessarily give up any weighted voting.
I agree.
I think it's important to make sure that that's retained to the best of its ability for resolving matters that are in the best interest of the Oskaloosa residents. So I know the current program tries to make some modifications to that. I would suggest that we be real careful with that, though, given just the political environment we exist in.
Yep.
I agree with Michael.
Yep.
But so I'm clear, does that mean not going from the 12 to the 6, or just staying with the weighting but going to 6 is okay?
I don't even disagree with lowering the total number of representatives, but making sure that the vote does count by a weighted amount. Or okay. I've seen in other instances where I used to work that, you show up as your one vote, your one person, your one vote, and then on routine matters, it's all, it's just a single vote. There's no weighted factor put into it, like the mayor was saying. Generally speaking, no big issue. But then if there's more of a financial impact or maybe a controversial item, then the board, somebody makes a motion to take a weighted vote. And it's very, very much done so. It goes into the computer or the spreadsheet or whatever, and then they factor in what the vote actually is based on a weighted vote. So they kind of operate knowing that it could be either way, a single vote, or it could be weighted.
Okay.
So this probably isn't the appropriate place for this, so maybe you can fill me in at a later date, but the whole, I don't know if it's the board chairman or whoever it is was Catherine Call Goodman, is that right?
Was last year.
She's no longer there, so was that decided on a vote by the entire board?
She was not appointed by the county for this coming year, and so she was ineligible to be a chairperson because she wasn't a member of the board anymore.
Oh, I got you. Okay, got you. All right.
Hey, Mayor, quick question. What's the gender balance of that board look like today?
Primarily male. I think we've got two. Let's see. There's Janet, Barb. I think there's one more female on there as well. But that gets into a challenge where you have multiple entities, each making their own appointments, and then I know the code suggests that all the entities should give some thought to gender balance as they make their appointments, but it's very difficult and unwieldy to do that.
Well, if it's possible, that's what, it says. If you can do it, they highly recommend you do it.
Yep.
But there's situations you can't, so at least show an effort to do it.
Yeah, Catherine was in the minority as far as gender balance was concerned back in the day. In fact, when the county made their appointments, there were 2 females that came off and replaced by males.
Mayor, just to make sure I'm real clear, are you saying if you're the only person that shows up for Oskaloosa, you carry all our votes in your pocket?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Is the 2080 written that way?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so Oskaloosa is actually in a position where if we do nothing, we maintain the weighted vote. It's an unwieldy number of potential or a number of votes that are there, but it's workable. It's just complicated if you're the chairman trying to count votes.
Well, I mean, I agree with Mike. Regardless of where you end up in numbers, we represent half the county population. So we ought to have half the vote. I mean, whether they like that or not, whether they think that's fair or not, I mean, if we're doing a representative government, that's the way it ought to be. So.
Yeah, the flip side comes from the small towns who say, are you trying to disenfranchise us? Because we know that as we sit here in this room, that if the representative from Oskaloosa and the representative from the county agree that this is the way we ought to go, it doesn't matter what all the other towns in Mahaska County think. Why are we here?
Well, in the current environment, I don't think they ever have to worry about that. But if the county and the city would agree on something. But the fact of the matter is that that's what representative government is. I mean, when you go to the House of Representatives, based on population, that's what you get for representation. So while I appreciate their argument, I mean, our society is built on that, quite frankly. So
yep.
I'm not for changing it. But
yeah.
Well, when the board votes on the chairperson, is that one vote per person, or you get to vote 12 times for yourself if you want to be chairman?
Well, typically, as you've probably witnessed this in some of the boards that you've been on, there's only one person to vote for as chairman anyway. But with that in mind, yes, it would be 12 votes that go in the direction of whatever we favor.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So I'm not sure I'm clear on what action we need tonight, Mayor.
There is none beyond just the commentary, and I wanted to open up the conversation just to say, hey, this is brewing. So does anyone on the council have any initial opinions on this document and some of the direction it goes? The biggest effect has to do with representation. But that was something that I wanted to at least let y'all know about. It also gets rid of language that talks about an executive board, which I think that has more to do with the way that the thing functions that wouldn't necessarily affect anything as far as Oskaloosa is concerned.
Mayor, Council, if I would suggest, if anyone has comments that you'd like to give or forward on to me and to the mayor I would compile those into one source document. We could use that for a future agenda item if you have specific comments or edits that you'd like to see. And then I can summarize those for the mayor.
Okay. If no further comments, we'll move on, which I think that's the last item of the night. So with that, we'll go on to reports from city staff. Anything, city manager?
Mayor, I just want to at least make one note that, again, in 2 weeks, the city will have a special election on the question of raising the hotel motel tax by an additional 2%. So that's a special election. As always, you as elected officials do a good job of encouraging people to go out and vote. And so the same goes here. It's an important thing for the residents and the voters of Oskaloosa to consider.
There is only one voting location, is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, the county ag building on A Avenue East or A Avenue West.
Okay.
City clerk, anything?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay. City attorney, anything?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, very good. City council members, Scotty, anything from you?
No, thank you.
Okay. Doug?
Nothing tonight, sir.
Okay. Diane?
No, sir.
Okay. How about you, Bob?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay. Joe?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. Steve?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Tom?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. And I would ditto what Mike said, that this upcoming hotel motel tax vote is a big deal. It's a good opportunity as we start to loosen up the city and start doing more tourism things in the coming years. So hopefully everyone has a chance to get out and, certainly encourage people to vote for it. With that.
Well, we can't give them our opinion, right?
Unless it's in the form of a resolution.
Officially. You could probably have a personal opinion.
Oh, man, I thought because we were on council, we weren't to have an opinion.
You can have a personal opinion.
We went through all that lawyer gibberish.
Yeah.
What's your personal opinion?
I don't know if we can give it. That's what I'm asking.
You just said you could, so.
Yep,
yeah.
Yep, you can. But if you want to do it in a personal manner, I guess that's okay too.
Nice.
So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Wait a minute. I want to ask Doug about the weather in Texas.
Well, it got too bad, so we drove over to Gulf Shore. So we're actually in Alabama right now. It's a little better.
You got electricity, so.
Yeah, we're fine down here.
Hey, Doug, BG's down there. You can go see him. BG Campbell's down there. You can go see him.
Yeah.
We're just hanging out. We're waiting to make a run home on Friday, I think.
Okay.
All right, later.
All right.